I, a female teen, live with my dad. My mom passed away a couple of years ago. My dad met Josie in a grief group or something like that, and they got married last year. Josie has two young boys, both in grammar school, and I hate living with them, to be honest. The older boy has really bad ADHD and is constantly accidentally breaking things, making messes, and having meltdowns over the smallest things. The younger one is somewhat similar, but not as bad. They both get into my room and take things or break them. I babysat them once when our parents were dating, and I'd rather not watch them again. Ever. Josie offered to pay me when they were dating, but I said no. Now that we all live together, she's been trying to make me deal with them more and more. Usually when my dad's not home. My dad thinks I should just bond with them more, but he also said that I don't have to babysit. Josie keeps trying to pull the just watch them for an hour while they go to the store, or loading me up with chores since I'm not watching the kids. I already have chores, so it's not like I'm doing nothing. I just want some time to myself to relax on the weekend. My dad doesn't see it happening, so he thinks I'm exaggerating. I have the smaller bedroom in the house we moved into, but when I was putting stuff away, I found a hatch in the side attic that nobody else knows about. I've started keeping things I don't want anyone else to get into in there. And it's big enough for me to spread out a blanket and some pillows and read or work on my laptop in peace. I had the idea to go in there and avoid Josie when my dad wasn't at home, and it worked. She called for me and came looking for me, but couldn't find me. My dad texted me and asked where I was, and I told him I was in my room and dropped my phone location for him to see. Josie still couldn't find me, but I slipped out before my dad came home and was lying on my bed with a book when he got there. Josie got really angry and asked where I'd been, and I told her I was in my room. My dad showed her the location I sent when she accused me of lying and sneaking out. Now they're arguing because Josie insists I wasn't in the house, and my dad thinks she's lying and taking it out on me because I wouldn't babysit. I do feel a little bad now because I am making Josie look kinda crazy, but I also don't want to babysit or spend my entire Saturday doing chores. Am I the idiot? LMAO, you're definitely not the idiot. This is a difficult situation that you didn't ask for. Your free time and study time should have been considered when we all moved in together. You might want to say something to Josie like, "I've finished my chores, I'm going to my room now. I have work to do, and I'd appreciate not being disturbed until X hours, instead of continuing to hide in the attic. Because I can see that it may end up being your fault when it is discovered. OP, please do not hide in the hiding spot again. It will only get you into trouble. Set up a hidden camera with audio in your room on a day when you know your stepmother will cause trouble. Aim it at the door to your room, so you can catch the boys if they try to mess with your belongings. Then ask your dad for a meeting and show him the evidence. It is important to talk to him away from the house so that your stepmother cannot interfere. Agree with the suggestion to use the hidden room for safe storage of items that you do not want your stepbrothers to access. Josie needs to understand that you are not available 24/7 to be her babysitter. This is a difficult situation for you, but focus on your studies and your future. Hopefully, you will be able to go to college soon and leave Josie to take care of her own children. Update: to clarify, I am not allowed to have a lock on my door, and I got in trouble for blocking it to keep the kids out. Josie blatantly lies to my dad when I refuse to do what she wants while he is not home, and until now he believed her. I have been punished for being disrespectful to her, even though all I did was say no. I have tried talking to both my dad and Josie together as well as separately, but she denies everything, and my dad thinks it is because I do not like the idea of having a stepfamily. So no one listens to me. I am now considering keeping my belongings hidden in the attic and not staying in the hidden room for a while, as some people have suggested. I will also try to record Josie, but I may also talk to my coach at school. She has noticed that I am losing weight and getting tired too quickly during practice and asked if everything is okay. Perhaps she can talk to my dad about it, as the stress is affecting my training, or she can suggest someone else who my dad would listen to. My daughter is almost an adult, and a few years ago, I promised her that when she turns 21, I will give her my grandmother's pearls. She is my only daughter, and I believe my mother would want her to have them. However, I did not want to give them to her right away because I was afraid my ex would take them away from her. She was okay with waiting until she turns 21 and was very happy when I promised them to her. However, the pearls still belong to me. My son's wife, who was then his fiancée, asked to borrow the pearls for their wedding as her something borrowed. I agreed and lent them to her. When my daughter saw her wearing the pearls, she asked if it was the same set when they returned from their honeymoon. My daughter-in-law confirmed that it was, and said she had borrowed them for the ceremony. She returned them before they left for their honeymoon. My daughter asked me why I lent them, and I explained that I thought my mother would have liked to be a part of her grandson's wedding. My daughter said she was hurt that I loaned out her pearls without asking. I told her they weren't hers yet, but they will be one day. They're mine, and I have a right to loan them out. She asked if she could have them now, because she doesn't trust me with them anymore. I told her no, but I compromised and said I'd give them to her for her high school graduation next year when she'll be 18. She agreed to the compromise, but she's still upset. Does promising to give someone a gift mean that I lose the rights to it before gifting it? I didn't think so, but I'd like to hear your opinions. Not the idiot. Your mother would have been happy to know that her pearls were worn at her grandson's wedding. Your daughter is being unreasonable. I suggest holding off on giving the pearls to her until she's 25 or 30 to allow her to mature more. My daughter knows she'll inherit my house one day. She doesn't see it as hers right now and understands that I may decide to sell it someday. I am not obligated to treat it as her property for the rest of my life. I agree, until my daughter understands the significance of the pearls, she won't be able to properly honor them. Right now, they're just a fancy item she feels entitled to, rather than a symbol of her grandmother's honor and legacy. She must understand the meaning behind the pearls before she can have them in her possession. I don't believe she would take care of them. They would just be another possession to her. I seem to have a different view from the majority. You are the one in the wrong. Your daughter sees those pearls as an heirloom to be passed down in the direct line. You told her she would receive them at 21, which implies that you are holding them in trust for her, especially since you do not wear them yourself. And you even mentioned that the only reason you kept them was to prevent them from being stolen by your ex. While legally they may still be yours, from your daughter's perspective, they are being held for her. And now you have diminished the direct connection from her grandmother to her mother to her. I understand your perspective that they are still legally yours, but you should have asked your daughter and respected her opinion. Then you could have found something else for your daughter-in-law to wear. I agree. It's possible that your daughter was hoping to wear the pearls at her own wedding. This plan may now hold less meaning for her, since her sister-in-law wore them first. I wore my grandmother's emerald ring at my wedding, and I'm not sure if I would have felt differently if a cousin had worn it before me. I feel for your daughter. The sentimental value of jewelry like that can be significant for some people. I, a 45-year-old female, have 3 children. My eldest, Gia, is 28 years old. About 5 years ago, she moved about 90 minutes away to live with her boyfriend, Marco. They have since had 2 daughters, who are now preschoolers and a toddler. My youngest daughter, Alexis, is almost an adult and is mentally and physically disabled. While she is somewhat independent, she will never be able to live alone, and requires much care. When my oldest granddaughter was born, Gia kept hinting that I should come to visit and help her. I did come down a couple of times, but Alexis' health was pretty poor at that point, so that had to be my focus. Eventually, Gia confided in me that Marco didn't help with the baby. I sympathized. As time went on, things didn't get better. I was surprised when Gia told me she was trying to conceive number 2. I asked if Marco was doing better and she said no. But he really wanted to try for a boy. It's her life and her business, so I let it go. Sure enough, nothing changed. When my youngest granddaughter was born, Around this time my cousin passed. I was left as the guardian of her toddler daughter Evelyn. Juggling Evelyn and Alexis is no easy task, and I'm also doing it alone. I have never asked my older kids for help and never would. This past year, Gia kept hinting that I should come down more. I have come down a couple of times, but usually say it would be easier for her to come to me. Recently, Gia blew up at me saying she has no help, and as her mother, I should. I said I was a little busy myself with one special needs child and a toddler who went through trauma. I'm always there emotionally, but I can't physically. She said that Marco was no help, and I said she knew what she was getting into this time around. It's not up to everyone else to support her. She got mad and told me I was insensitive. I was talking to my sister and she said I had gone too far. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She should redirect her anger toward her husband instead of you. Managing a toddler who just lost her mother and a teenager with disabilities all on your own is amazing in itself. Hang in there. Don't feel like you need to be doing more. Geez, seriously? OP has at least as much on her plate as her daughter does, if not more. What in the world does she want from you? What is OP supposed to do with her responsibilities while she takes off to help her daughter? And if OP brings both children with her to her daughters, I don't see how that would be very helpful to her daughter. It would create a house full of chaos. She had a second child with a man she knew wasn't helpful, or frankly, a decent father. I can't for the life of me wrap my brain around why she would do that. But seriously, if he already didn't do anything with the first child, why would she agree to a second? I know divorce and single parenthood suck, but if you're doing it all alone anyway, why not get rid of the dead weight instead of keeping him and adding a second child to a difficult situation? Yes, Gia is an adult who found out her partner was useless with the first child, then chose to have a second. You have a full plate, her mess, and she needs to deal with it. While I grew up as an only child, my wife has one sister, Jamie, who's a graduate student at a university. Jamie needed a place to stay after she and her long-term boyfriend of 6 years broke up. My wife and I offered to let her stay in our guest house temporarily while she gets back on her feet. A week had passed when she started acting out of character. She would go out overnight without telling my wife or me where she was or who she was with. While I am aware that she is an adult, it is concerning when I leave for work in the morning and have no idea where she is. I expressed my worry to my wife, and she said she had talked to Jamie about it. Over the next 2 weeks, Jamie had at least 5 different guys over. I had a confrontation with one of them after I caught him leaving. When I asked him who he was, he ignored me and ran to his car. Jamie laughed it off, saying he was just a friend and insisted he was harmless. I told her I did not appreciate her constantly bringing random guys to my home. She then said he was not a random guy, and that she would start spending the night at their places instead. I told Jamie that she needed to calm down with the guys, and that having intimacy with a bunch of other men would not solve her problems. She got angry and said it was none of my business. I reminded her that she was staying with us for free, and that she should be more considerate. I was just looking out for her. Jamie told my wife about how I confronted the guy, and she feels like I'm making up rules to shame her. Now, we're not allowed to talk to each other, and all communication goes through my wife, who thinks I was out of line for what I said. In my opinion, Jamie is a guest living in our guest house for free, and all I care about is her safety, my property not being damaged, and her not bringing over sketchy guys. I do not think I'm asking for too much, and I feel like this situation is being blown out of proportion, even if my joke was insensitive. So am I the idiot? Yes, you are the idiot. While it is your guest house, it is also your wife's. Jamie is an adult and a guest. Your joke was not only insensitive but also disgusting. She does not need you to look out for her past. She is staying with you while she figures things out. That is the only thing you agreed to. Are you sure you are not jealous of the men she is seeing? Any conversations about this should be between Jamie and her sister, not you. It is creepy that you thought your joke was acceptable. Why do you know just how many guys are going in and out the presumably separate guest house? Honestly, it seems like you've been spying on her. And if that wasn't weird enough, you made it a point to comment on her intimate life and then tried to cover it up as a joke. You've just successfully ruined your relationship with your sister-in-law forever, and she's likely never going to trust you again. Even if she eventually heals and forgives you, you've just permanently broken something in your relationship with your wife as well. Hopefully your wife reflects on this and sees just how creepy her husband is. Definitely not the idiot. She is extremely rude for inviting guests over when she's a guest herself. This is not how you treat a guest situation at a family member's house, and many hosts consider it very rude in these situations. It is perfectly reasonable to expect an adult family member to abide by house rules, even guest house rules. It's disrespectful that she's using your house like a hotel instead of waiting until she finds a new flat to stay. Seriously, get her out. She's acting like an entitled child, and your wife is missing major red flags. It's your property. You have the right to know who's coming and going. My brother-in-law was driving us home and my hands were starting to shake because I hadn't eaten. So I was going to eat one of the pastries I had brought, but he said I couldn't eat in his car. He was acting like his precious car would combust if it got crumbs in it, so I asked him to pull over because I needed to eat something. I decided to walk home while eating my pastry because I was annoyed at him. He kept asking me to get back in the car and claimed my husband would give him a hard time if he let me walk home. But I told him I didn't care, and I'll walk the entire way. So now my husband is mad at his brother, and my brother-in-law is blaming me because I refused to get back in the car. They had a huge argument when my husband first found out, and my husband also privately told me I should have just let his brother drive me home instead of being stubborn and walking. Every time we argue about it, my brother-in-law asks me if I'm going to start sulking again, which is really getting on my nerves. Am I the idiot? So I asked him to pull over because I needed to eat something. He complied and pulled over so I could eat. Then you acted like a toddler because he did exactly as you asked? You are the idiot, OP. Grow up. You literally had to eat a pastry that second. Why are we assuming you have diabetes? You were so desperate for energy, literally shaking, yet you were able to walk home to prove a point? If it wasn't that far of a walk, it would have been an even shorter drive. Surely you could have waited to eat. I think you're a control freak. If his bringing up how you act gets on your nerves, then maybe don't act that way. And learn to be patient. Take better care of yourself, so you're not about to faint while sitting in someone else's car. Sitting in somebody else's car because you haven't eaten food all day. He doesn't want crumbs in his car. You should have offered to pay for the detailing if you made a mess. Considering how shaky you were, crumbs were likely. All in all, you are a huge idiot for intentionally making two brothers mad at each other. You owe them both an apology,